I was standing in the boardroom when my boss pointed at me and said, "She stole 1.2 million from this company." For a second, I couldn't even process the words. The glass walls, the long mahogany table, the quiet hum of the projector, all of it collapsed into a ringing silence as every head in the room turned toward me. The CEO's eyebrows lifted in shock. Board members shifted in their seats. Someone whispered my name. I felt the air thicken around me, like I was suddenly underwater. Daniel Cole, my boss, the man I had carried on my back for 6 years, stood calmly at the front of the room, hands folded in front of him as if he were delivering a weather report. He clicked to the next slide. A spreadsheet appeared, numbers highlighted in red, missing funds. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice dripping with forced disappointment, "Ava falsified financial records for the Harpertech project. She rerouted funds. We estimate a loss of 1.2 million. My throat went dry. "That's not possible," I said quietly. "Those aren't the numbers Daniel cut me off with a raised hand. "Please don't embarrass yourself further," he said. "We've all seen the files." I scanned the faces around the table. I had worked with most of them for years. I had saved this company millions through clean data, perfect audits, and relentless precision. But in that moment, none of it mattered. They believed him, or at least they didn't believe me. The CEO leaned forward. "Daniel, are these verified?" Daniel nodded gravely. "It confirmed the files came from her account. We have no choice but to suspend her pending investigation." I could barely breathe. Security was called. 2 men stepped into the room and stood at my sides, waiting. "I didn't falsify anything," I whispered, but my voice felt small and shaky. Daniel offered me a sympathetic look that was nothing but poison. "At this point, Ava, it's better if you cooperate." They took my badge. They walked me past my coworkers. People stared, whispering. Phones stopped mid-scroll. A few coworkers avoided eye contact entirely, already distancing themselves from the woman accused of sinking the company's biggest account. By the time I stepped outside into the cold Chicago air, the humiliation burned so deeply it felt physical. My hands shook as I unlocked my apartment that evening, the HR email already waiting for me. Suspended without pay. Fraud review pending. Criminal charges under consideration. I sank onto my living room floor, heart pounding. My career, my entire life, was being dismantled in real time. I covered my face with both hands, trying to steady my breathing. And then, through the panic, a single, sharp thought cut through the noise. Daniel used files from my account. But what he didn't know was that my account didn't just save files. It auto-backed up everything. Every project, every version, every email, every instruction he ever sent. And if his numbers were lies, then the truth had to be somewhere in my archives. I opened my laptop. The moment my laptop powered on, my heartbeat steadied. Not because I felt safe, but because I finally had something to focus on other than humiliation. My private archive system wasn't flashy or impressive. It was a simple, automated folder that synced every night at midnight, storing untouched versions of every spreadsheet I worked on. Most people never even knew it existed. Daniel certainly didn't. I typed in the password and opened the Harpertech folder. There it was, every file, every update, every draft from the last 9 months. I pulled up the original budget sheet, then the second version, then the third. All of them clean, balanced, perfect. Then I opened the version Daniel had shown in the boardroom. It was like looking at a crime scene. Cells had been altered, dates changed, transfer codes replaced. In the expense routing tab, an entry appeared that I had never typed. A vendor name I didn't recognize, linked to payments totaling 1.2 million. My stomach tightened. Someone had tampered with my file, not subtly, strategically. I opened my email archive next. Every instruction from Daniel was there. At first, it was nothing unusual. Approve this expense, update that column, send over the new projection. But then I saw it. A chain of emails that didn't appear in my work inbox anymore. He must have deleted them, but the backups didn't lie. I clicked one at random. It was dated 3 months earlier. "Ava, don't question the vendor payments. They're approved at the executive level. Just route according to the attached codes." Route according to the attached codes. The same codes that led to the supposedly missing 1.2 million. A chill spread down my spine. He used my access. He used my spreadsheets. He used my job as the perfect place to hide his theft. And he didn't stop there. The next file I opened was a PDF titled PIP Draft A. Morgan. PIP, Performance Improvement Plan. It was dated 6 weeks before the board meeting. He planned to destroy me long before he ever called the accusation regretful. I leaned back on my couch, staring at the ceiling as the truth settled over me like cold fog. Daniel hadn't made a mistake. He hadn't panicked. He hadn't confused numbers or misread data. He had built this, piece by piece. A premeditated professional assassination, and I wasn't the first. A quick search through the archives revealed old coworker names. 4 analysts Daniel had let go for performance issues. Their projects had similar vendor entries, similar routing patterns, similar accusations. They weren't bad at their jobs, they were obstacles. He destroyed them to cover up his own tracks. My chest tightened with anger, but it wasn't fiery. It was cold, steady, focused. Stealing credit was one thing, ruining lives was another. I sat upright and opened a new folder titled Evidence Package. Into it, I dragged every untouched spreadsheet, every doctored version, every time-stamped file, and every incriminating email. The folder grew heavier with every addition. But I wasn't done, not until someone other than me saw it. I scrolled through my contacts and stopped at a name I had only spoken to twice, Linda Price, internal auditor. Quiet, observant, unshakable. The kind of woman who recognized lies in numbers the way a jeweler recognized flaws in diamonds. I drafted a short message. Linda, I have documents you need to see. Urgent, not safe to email. Are you available in the morning? She replied in 2 minutes. Conference room C 9 a.m. Bring everything. When I closed my laptop, the shame and panic from earlier were replaced with something else entirely. Not confidence, not yet. But clarity. Daniel thought I would crumble. He thought public humiliation would scare me into silence. He thought a fraud review would break me before the truth could surface. He forgot one thing. I keep everything. The next morning, I walked into conference room C holding a flash drive, a folder, and a calmness I didn't recognize. Linda was already there, arms folded, eyes sharp. Show me, she said. I plugged in the flash drive and began. Linda didn't speak as I walked her through each file. She didn't gasp, didn't widen her eyes, didn't even blink. She simply watched, absorbing every number, every timestamp, every contradiction. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and exhaled slowly. This isn't incompetence, she said. This is deliberate. I know. She looked at me for a long moment. Legal needs to see this immediately. And the CEO, my stomach tightened. Will they believe it? Numbers don't lie, she said. People do. By noon, the company's legal counsel had reviewed the archive and confirmed everything. A quiet, urgent meeting was arranged for the next morning. The calendar invite was vague. Follow up on HarperTech investigation. Required attendance, Daniel Cole. He would think it was about finalizing my termination. I barely slept that night. Not out of fear, out of anticipation. The next morning, I walked into the same boardroom where Daniel had executed my public humiliation. Only this time, Linda stood beside me. Legal sat across from us. And at the head of the table, the CEO looked far less patient than he had 2 days earlier. Daniel entered last, confident, rehearsed. Good, he said. Let's resolve this and move forward. The CEO didn't smile. We intend to. Linda clicked the projector. The first slide appeared, the original HarperTech budget time-stamped. Then the altered version. Then the transfer logs. Then Daniel's own emails instructing me to use the fraudulent vendor codes. He went pale. This is taken out of context, he said quickly. Clerical errors, miscommunication. Legal shook their head. The vendor receiving the lost funds is a shell company tied to your home address. Daniel's voice cracked. This is a misunderstanding. It's fraud, the CEO said. And it ends today. Security stepped inside. Daniel looked at me then, really looked, and realized exactly how carefully he had underestimated me. He opened his mouth to speak, but the guards were already escorting him out. The silence he left behind was different from the one that followed my accusation. This one felt clean. The CEO turned to me. Ava, we owe you an apology and an offer. The operations director position is yours if you want it. When I sat in Daniel's old chair later that afternoon, facing the same skyline he once admired, I felt no triumph, just certainty. I keep receipts, and karma never misses.